Hi, I'm Garrett, also known as Creative Handyman Online, and today I just want to show you how to inoculate logs with mushroom spores so you can grow your own mycelium and ultimately grow your own edible mushrooms. So you're going to get a lot of different information online, and people are going to tell you all kinds of stuff, and some people really complicate this, and I will say the more complicated and sterile your environment is, the better your success rate will likely be. But that doesn't mean you can't do it quick, slick, and on the fly, which was what we're going to do today. A lot of people will tell you need to wear a mask, rubber gloves, sterilize everything, sterilize your environment. I, for one, when I wear I buy extra large rubber gloves, and my hands are so big it just rips them. So it's kind of a pain. I don't really like to wear gloves. So I'm just using hand sanitizer today. I've sanitized my hammer and all that fun stuff. So let's just go over real quick. I'll try and make this video as quick as you can with as much information as I can pack in here. When I show you how easy this is to do, you are going to be on this like bees on flowers, I guarantee it. So here we go. You need a drill and a drill bit that matches, or is just slightly smaller than your spore plug. So ask your supplier of your spore plugs. I guess I should have said you need spore plugs. You can buy these online. They're basically wooden dowel rods that have been inoculated with mushroom mycelium, mushroom spores, and they're growing. So we're going to view these as seeds. That's not technical. It's not what they really are. Mushrooms grow from spores, which kind of like seeds, just to make it simple. So don't complicate it. So you need the spore plugs, the drill bit, some gloves and mask or hand sanitizer, whatever you want to do. Complicate it if you'd like. You're going to need a hammer. You need 2 pans. One to put water in. I like to use old ones that I don't need to take back in the house, so these are just designated for out here. So one you put water in, the other one you put either beeswax or paraffin wax, and you'll need a heat source to melt that wax. And then you'll need a paintbrush to put the wax on. I'll show you that process later in this. So I've already drilled some of my holes. I guess before I go any further, I should tell you about the logs. One thing you're going to hear is that you have to harvest your logs in the middle of winter when all the energy is stored in the log. While that is probably better and you'll get more years of life out of your mushroom logs, you can actually get these logs any time of year. The general rule of thumb is if you cut a tree, you should let it rest for about 2 weeks before inoculating it with mushroom spores. This one has actually been resting for probably a few weeks, but it is an oak. Oak is a very popular one with all kinds of mushrooms, but research and see what kind of wood, the kind of mushrooms that you're trying to grow. Now these specific ones, these are maitake, also known as Grapula frondosa, which is also known as hen of the woods. So that's what I'm inoculating here. It's one of my favorite mushrooms. I love to eat them, so I want to grow as many as I can. Simple as that. All right, so on spacing, here you're going to hear another broad range of things. The general spacing is about 4 inches apart. You can, I don't know if you can see the holes there or not. I've already drilled them. About 4 inches apart. And then the next row over, you're going to stagger it. So up here's a hole, and here's a hole. And you're going to go the whole way around the log in that fashion. Now, I will tell you, you can get away with a lot less spore plugs than that. So say you buy a little pack, but you have lots of logs, you can spread it out. But here's the risk you take. So this log is going to get mushroom spores in it, whether it's from the wild or ones you put in, and the dominating spores that colonize will generally dominate the log. You want the edible kind to dominate, and that's why people put these so close together. But you can get away, you could technically get away with 1 spore plug in this log and you might be successful. Might. It's iffy. So it's up to you. I've tried it both ways and had success where I went real tight and then where I spaced it out. I've had success both ways. I've had failures both ways. So do your thing, have fun with it. Once you get your plug drilled, you're just going to take that. Don't do that. We're going to throw that one away because it hit the table. Try not to break the plug. I'm on a glass table today. It's not the best place. It just worked for doing a video, so that's where we're at. You just want to plug these in flush. Try not to damage your bark. And I'll go the whole way around on that, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the rest. All right, I got all my plugs in. And I just want to show you how to wax it here. I got my wax heated up. So you're just going to dip your brush, no special science to this. You're just covering up the holes with wax, and it's better to lay the log down, but it's just easier to video with it right here for now. But you want to fill in the cracks so that bacteria as well as other mushroom spores don't get into the log. So just like that, you close it up, and then you'll see anywhere where you cut branches off, where you have the bark cut away, you are going to want to seal those areas in too. And that's going to protect the log from bacteria. And you also want to use the ends. Now, most of my mushroom logs in my mushroom yard are about 4 inches diameter by about 4 feet long. And that makes it really easy to stack them for resting as well as for flushing. What's not easy is they take up a lot of room when you soak them to shock the log, and I'll explain that further. The way you make these flush is after at least 8 months of them colonizing. A lot of times it'll take up to 2 years till they'll actually flush for you. But you want to take your log and you want to put it in ice cold water. Before you put it in the water, you hit it real hard with a hammer and vibrate the log one time, just right on the end here, boom, with a hammer. Stick it in ice cold water with ice in there for 24 hours, and then pull it out and stand your log up like this, or if it's a 4 inch diameter type like I use in the main yard, you can lean it against something and let them flush. So that's how you get your log to flush, and you wait a few days and boom, you have mushrooms. If it's not ready, if you try and flush before the log's actually ready to produce, it just won't produce anything, and that's fine too. You just try again 6 weeks from then. Either way, when you do get a flush, you can re-flush the log through the season every 6 weeks on average. The less you flush it, you may get more years out of it, but depends on what you want. So some logs will last 2 years, and some logs will produce for like 5 years. Depends on the log. When you select your wood, if you want to select, if you can select pieces that have tight bark, that's not like all peeling off and flaky, those generally will last longer because the mycelium is actually forming underneath the bark. And so your mushrooms aren't going to necessarily pop out where your spore plugs are. The mushrooms will pop out all over here. But if the bark peels away, it exposes the mycelium. And we'll look at the mycelium as roots, for a lack of a better term, if you're not familiar with how mushrooms grow. So that's the process of waxing, and a little bit more information jammed in there. I'm going to get the rest of my logs waxed, and then we have just a few more things to cover, and we'll close this video up. All right, guys, I got a few more really important tips for you. But before I get to that, I would like to mention I do these videos for free. I do have a lot more knowledge I'd love to share, but since I'm doing this for free, it's really hard for me to have the time to just make a bunch of videos. I have a lot of knowledge I want to share. So the way you can help me to share more videos is if you would just like and subscribe my page. Even if you aren't into the diversity of things that are on my page, it would really help me out if you just subscribe and like this video at least. That would really help me out so I can maybe make some money someday to afford to make more videos. So the last couple tips I want to give you are very important ones. This one is just to help simplify your process. Now, I actually broke this bit today, but to set the depth on my drill bit, when I'm drilling the holes for the spore plugs, I just take washers that go around the drill bit, and then I put tape around those washers to kind of hold them together, and that sets my depth. Now this is the blunt end, the sharp end broke off, but you get the idea. It helps you set the depth so you aren't over drilling when you drill into your logs, because you don't want to do that. You want it to be just a hair longer than your spore plug, the hole that you make. All right. The other tip is this, and this is very important. If you grow these mushrooms in a non-controlled environment, number one, you need to store them in a shaded area, no matter what. So if you don't have a forest to put your logs in, which I have a forest behind me, and I have my mushroom yard set up in the forest, which keeps it shaded all the time. If you don't have that, pay attention to the buildings, like your house, your garage, whatever, and find the side of those buildings that is generally always shaded. And that would be a good place for you to store your logs. But other spores from other mushrooms can get in those logs, and your logs can grow poisonous mushrooms. So it is very important that you consult with a professional to learn how to safely identify mushrooms before you eat them. So kind of treat these mushrooms coming out of these logs as wild mushrooms, even though they're not. They could be. and you need to know what you're eating because some are very toxic. So eat the mushrooms at your own risk. Again, consult with a professional and learn how to identify them. I'm Garrett, also known as Creative Handyman. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy feeding your family. Well, wait, I guess I said don't eat them, but if you do figure out how to eat them safely, I hope you enjoy feeding your family with these mushrooms. You take care. Have a good day.